here's some resources to go follow if you're interested in hearing a little bit more about the situation at hand. You can check out Telesur News. Brazil Wire may give you some good stuff. Telesur is a Spanish language news channel that you're probably going to have to kind of go in and translate there. But also we talked about, what was that? There was a think tank there that was very helpful in kind of explaining the original, inciting event that led to the coup, and that was the Center for Economic Research or something like that. That was very very informative, but other than that, those are it's just kind of hard to find anything good on this issue. All right, we're going to turn our focus to 2020 right next. Hey guys, just a reminder that we want to hear your voice. If you like the show, please remember to leave a 5-star review on iTunes, or let us know that you like it by commenting on Spreaker.com or any Spreaker platform, or commenting or leaving a review on whatever platform you may want to get your podcast on. If you like the show, please, again, remember to subscribe, leave a review, because that's how you can support us. Also, if you like the show, please support us by going to Spreaker.com/TSWS, scrolling down and accessing our brand new merchandise store. Yeah, check that out. It's pretty cool. You're going to want to see it. Alright, so that's kind of how you can support us, support this holiday season if you like listening to us on a daily basis. Alright, interesting news now. Billionaire businessman Michael Bloomberg, he's entered the 2020 Democratic race as a middle-class kid who made good. Here's how he's starting with a $30 million ad blitz in which he presents himself as a jobs creator and middle-class kid who made good again. Michael Bloomberg started, he tweeted an ad that we'll put on. You know, let's just start by seeing how he's going to frame his campaign and how he's going to watch how he's
Mike Bloomberg
this is
started as a middle-class kid who had to work his way through college, then built a business from a single room to a global entity, creating tens of thousands of good-paying jobs along the way. He could have stopped there. But when New York suffered the terrible tragedy of 9/11, he took charge, becoming a 3-term mayor who brought a city back from the ashes and brought back jobs and hope with it, creating tens of thousands of affordable housing units so families could have a decent place to live, raising teachers' salaries and kids' graduation rates, and creating a more open and livable city for the millions who call it home. He could have stopped there. But when he witnessed the terrible toll of gun violence, he put his money where his heart is, helping to create a movement to take on the NRA and the politicians they own, to protect families across this country and help turn the tide. And he's funded college educations for thousands of deserving low-income and middle-class kids, and supported life-saving medical research, and stood up to the coal lobby and the outright denial of this administration to protect the only home we have from the growing menace of climate change. But now he sees a different kind of menace coming from Washington, so there's no stopping here. Because there's an America waiting to be rebuilt, where everyone without health insurance is guaranteed to get it, and everyone who likes theirs can go ahead and keep it. Where the wealthy will pay more in taxes, and the struggling middle class will get their fair share.
That's a good one.
And jobs that just allow you to get by will become jobs that let you get ahead. Mike Bloomberg for president. Jobs creator, leader, problem solver. It's going to take all three to build back a country.
Yeah, problem solvers caucus. That's what we got there. I mean, again, it's definitely not the worst ad I've ever seen. Kind of presenting someone as a middle class kid who kind of built up his business, talks about his resume, kind of very heavily spun resume, talking about only the best stuff. But honestly, what else are you going to expect? It's going to be up for the candidates to try and hammer that apart, really transparently apologizing for stop and frisk now. Just 1 week ago, that was also pretty funny stuff as well. It's just kind of ridiculous that's like that's the thing to do. That's what we're gonna do. Anyway, so Yeah, that's pretty much what he said. There's an America that's waiting to rebuild where everyone without health insurance is guaranteed to get it, and everyone who likes theirs can go ahead and keep it. The ad states echoing a pretty common insurance industry talking, pointing at single payer, so he's not going to be, I'm no surprise here to anyone. No one who's paying attention to any sort of politics should be surprised about this at all, but the reality situation is he's not going to be any kind of supporter of Medicare for all. Ahead of his official announcement, Bloomberg's expected entry in the 2020 race drew pretty sharp criticism from progressives, including Senators Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren, presidential candidates who have taken aim at the wealth of billionaires like Bloomberg with their tax proposals. So on Friday, Sanders expressed disgust at Bloomberg's $30 million ad purchase. Yeah, $30 million in all the major media markets is just going to be a force in terms of spending in just a massive, massive way. And it's going to be pretty crazy to watch this all fall out. So if you're in any kind of big liberal city, you're most likely going to be able to see a Michael Bloomberg ad similar to the one that I just played you sometime soon. So if you watch TV, local news at all, I believe if you watch like the news at 5 in LA on NBC, like you're going to be seeing Michael Bloomberg's ad like 5 times. Like it's going to be insane for you. So anyway, again, Common Dreams reporting here. Progressives have warned that the candidates of Bloomberg and private equity executive Deval Patrick represented last-ditch effort by wealthy donors to pretty much cut out the middleman. This is something that we've never seen them really do before. Cut out the middleman to try and maintain control over the Democratic Party. Normally they'd just be fine with a Joe Biden type person or Pete Buttigieg type person, but no. This time they really just want to go kind of all the way in and just be like, yeah, it's going to be really this simple. We need to have a donor in there themselves who's actually going to get the job done pretty much. We got 2 super rich guys who are scared to death that a progressive is going to win the primary and then win in the general. Charles Chamberlain, the chairman of the Progressive Group of Democracy for America, told Politico, this is about fear of victory, not fear of loss. So that is exactly right. Fear of victory of someone like Bernie Sanders or Elizabeth Warren, who is actually going to hold them accountable. Now, speaking of Elizabeth Warren, she's had 3 speeches in her campaign that Ryan Grimm says have defined who she is and are really good. That this article is drawing some headlines from Bernie Sanders supporters. I'm going to break at least some of it down. It's a very long article. We're going to break some of it down coming up in just 46 seconds. Hello, everyone. My name is Spencer Walsh. Here's what's happening on the Spencer Walsh Radio Network. We have Newsflash, always new every Sunday, and, of course, with new episodes occasionally on Thursdays, bonus episodes. Also for you, we have Red Alert, new at 11 p.m. every Monday, Uncultured, new at 8:30 p.m., live at 8:30 p.m. every Friday, the best mix show in the game. And also, we have a brand new line out, repping your generation, insulting the old world, repping the young world. Our new OK Boomer merch line is out now. Check it out on Spreaker.com/TSWS. Alright, so yeah, we are now going to kind of continue our little dive into the campaign of Elizabeth Warren here. And to launch her campaign back in January, Senator Elizabeth Warren had a number of locations to choose from. This is Ryan Graham here talking about Elizabeth Warren's rise to power. She could have started in Norman, Oklahoma, the setting of her ragged, edge-of-the-middle-class origin story, where the prairie populism could have been brought to the fore. She spent years in Houston, Philadelphia, and Boston, too, all chock full of their own useful imagery for a campaign, especially a campaign of her ilk. Instead, she chose Lawrence, Massachusetts for her opening salvo, linking her campaign to the Bread and Roses strike, led in 1912 largely by radical immigrant seamstresses and other garment workers. And this is, I remember seeing this campaign, hearing about the backstory of this when this campaign first launched. I was like, hey, this may not be a bad idea. This may not be a campaign that will be as kind of disconnected from its kind of worker or labor roots that I first thought it would be. But it would really be the first of 3 speeches setting up what Warren sees as the driving force of her campaign, the labor movement. And again, I kind of soured on how much I think she believes the labor movement is like the end-all be-all for her campaign later on, after I saw some of her moves in the throughout the course of the campaign. But again, I did kind of say that I did really feel that there was a very interesting, definitely an interesting undergirding root that she can kind of return to. Like some of the moves that kind of made me sour a little bit were like more people kind of, especially her biggest move is kind of her drop back from Medicare for All, her kind of watering down of everything that Bernie took, the wealth tax that's, I mean, not even always the most effective way to do things. But anyway, yeah, so the women and immigrant labor-led movements of the 19th and early 20th century was a big part of this campaign, and the immigrant-led labor movements and the women-led labor movements. She continued this narrative in September in New York City's Washington Square Park, chosen for its proximity to the 1911 Triangle Shirtwaist Factory fire, and finished on this past Thursday night before a crowd of roughly 2,000 at Clark Atlanta University. She says, "I've learned that no matter what fight you're in today, no matter how steep the climb feels, there are fighters who were here before you, fighters we can learn from, summoning the history of 1881's washerwomen's strike in Atlanta. Like much of the history of black resistance outside the 1960s, the movement has largely been obscured by popular history, which favors narratives that focus on black victims and white heroes. Instead, the speeches tell a different history. They situate her campaign in 150 years of conflict between the working class of all races, and I think this is a very important narrative to tell, and of working class and the dominant power structure inextricably tied up with issues of race and gender exploitation. The stories serve as guideposts for the Massachusetts Center's approach to politics, grounding her in a radical tradition of multiracial union organizing that pressures and gives ammunition to allies working from inside the political system. And Warren is not a subtle storyteller. So again, I think it's very interesting that like she tries to kind of do this here. And something that I think is pretty prevalent and pretty obvious is her kind of desire to really push for the most obvious and most common kind of narrative here. So, like, you can really see that's what she was trying to do. But I think that is something she is sort of, like, I've heard consistently dripping stories kind of coming through about how Elizabeth Warren has kind of been pushing and pushing and pushing for all this great stuff that Bernie Sanders, again, has been pushing for, probably just as more effectively and even more effectively than Elizabeth Warren has throughout her entire campaign. So pretty much, like, again, I really want to reemphasize here that nothing that Ryan Graham is saying here about Bernie Sanders, Elizabeth Warren, Bernie Sanders hasn't been doing for the same, if not longer, probably longer, because just the fact that he's been in politics for a longer time. But I think the reality also is that he really is someone who you get the sense just hasn't wavered. Where you see, again, a bunch of stories about Elizabeth Warren kind of still keeping her ties to bigger money, still attending some fundraisers that are pretty powerful, and appealing to, again, a certain sect of people. Like the white, I get the sense that she kind of appeals to the whiter, kind of upper class of people who just aren't really comfortable with Bernie Sanders, but still do have some progressive tendencies in their votes. I think that's who pretty much say, like, she's going to be more pragmatic in the way that she does things. Like, she's going to be more, she's going to really get stuff done. And what I think that really is code for is she's going to not push for the most radical option, and that's something that I feel a lot more comfortable with. Like, that's kind of the sense that I get, because she's not going to be as aggressive for a fighter as Medicare for All, like literally coming out admitting she will not fight for Medicare for All until post midterm election. I think that's a big reality, kind of setting yourself up for kind of two major fights. Because if you think about it, the health insurance companies are going to fight the public option just as hard as they're going to fight Medicare for all. That's going to be an incredibly taxing fight. We're going to spend a lot of your political capital in Washington